You only have like half the agenda tonight, so.
I get worried when somebody walks out.
Well, if we weren't hot, I would give you one or two answers. I'll either give you the Texas Rancher answer to why I'm wearing them, or the non-politically correct answer to why I'm wearing them.
Here it is right here. I think this one is a good one and this is a good one. But this needs to be confirmed and everything. Anyway, that's the ones for my section of the subdivision. So good luck. I'd be really appreciative if you let me know what. Hopefully there's an attorney, maybe Daniel. Does he come to your meetings?
He should be here, but I don't know if I give an opinion on that.
Madam Chairman, it is 5:30.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this meeting of Planning and Zoning to order. First item we're going to have is roll call. Shelby, if you'll take roll call.
Yes, ma'am. Jim Jerome.
Here.
Jeff Lawrence.
Here.
Cindy Scroggins. Here. Emily Kirchner. Here. Daryl Whitworth.
Here.
Holly Rickard.
Here.
Tim Dooley.
Here.
Steve Thomas. Janice Menking.
Here. All right. And while it's not on the agenda, I would like to welcome Cindy Scroggins to our midst. Thank you. We're glad to have you at your first meeting. You have to make all the motions and talk a lot.
Oh, great.
All right, we're going to go to item number 4, public comments. This is the time when there's anyone here who wants to make any comments about items on the agenda or just anything in general. We invite you to make comments and hold those comments to 3 minutes. So if there's anyone here that wants to make any comments, this is your time. Shelby, do we have any online comments? All right, thank you. Then we will go to item number 5A, public hearing, request Z2128 by Jacob Grant to consider requested voluntary annexation and proposed zoning classification of a single-family residential R1 for approximately 21.46 acres of land described as GECO number 700, lots GE 165, GE 170, and a 21.56 acre part of Outlot Street located at 688 Pica Road. I will entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion. Second.
A motion by Jim. You made that second?
Daryl.
Daryl, down there. Second by Daryl. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Jason, you're going to make the presentation on that one?
Yes, good evening. Sorry about that. Okay, maybe that's a little better. Good evening, Chairman, board members. So the first request tonight is public hearing, consideration and action regarding a requested voluntary annexation of property at 668 Pica Road. It's approximately 21 acres. And the subject request is for R1 zoning district. Future land use plan does call this area out as low-density residential, so the request would be in line with the zoning of the property. We looked at this area. The applicant has not completed their approval of the annexation agreement by city council, so that we can make the recommendation on the zoning for this. And then the next step would be city council on February 21st. At that point, council will either approve or deny the annexation request agreement, and then consider approval or denial of the zoning request. At this point, given the location of the area, again, it shows low density residential. And then if you go down and look at the zoning, it would be single family residential. There is some R4 next to it, but that allows different types of units as well. But that is the requested zoning. So based on that, staff would recommend approval of the requested voluntary annexation, the requested zoning with the condition that council approves the annexation agreement.
Thank you. Is there anyone here who wants to make any comments on this request? Certainly.
Members, my name is Clint Hall. I'm operating officer for GT Development. And Jacob's out of town on business, and Mark, our engineer, is at a school board meeting. So you get me.
Certainly. Do you have any
No,
to
ma'am.
add?
I was told to be here for questions.
Okay. If nobody else has any comments, we're going to close the public hearing, and if we have any questions, we'll have you answer them.
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much for being
I'll
here.
make a motion to go out public hearing.
Okay, I have a motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second. You probably got that one.
Oh, second by Polly. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Do you have any other comments, Jason? All right.
Is that the one that's actually turning dirt right now, or is this another piece?
This is another piece. They had the previous annexation was the one on Post Oak and Live Oak intersection that we approved several months ago.
Oh, this is Pica, I'm sorry.
Yes, Pica. And they are turning dirt. I know they have their sewer cleanouts in, most of their infrastructure, so they're moving at a good pace.
It's next to Windmills.
Any other questions anybody have? We are on action item number 6A, discussion, consideration, recommendation for request Z2128. So are there any other questions that anybody has on that?
Make a motion to approve C2120.
Motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Polly. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, motion carries. Thank you.
Tell them you want to raise. You're showing up to the meeting.
Are you hiring?
All right, the next item we have is public hearing 5B, request Z2201 by Kevin Spraggins, applicant to consider an amendment to an existing planned unit development of HUD to allow land use of hotel motel for approximately 10.98 acres of land described as lots 1, 2, and 3 of the Feller Phase 1 subdivision located at 1511 and 1565 East Main Street. I'll entertain a motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion, we open the public hearing for Z2201.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Emily. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Mr. Spraggins, wake up.
All right. I didn't know who wanted to go first. I didn't want to take away Jason's
You
thunder
need to bring
there.
a tall stool for future efforts. You can stay there.
I could. There's a chair right here. I can just hang out. So yeah, we are asking for a rezone of this PUD that was done back in, was that 1981, Jason, I believe you say in your report? And so originally we had a hotel developer who wanted to come in and had it under contract. And then he dropped it, but then we had the other hotel next door. And so the fellers feel like that this might come together and be one piece. So you have the 8 acres and the 4 acres. And so they wanted to go ahead and combine all this as far as making sure that that was an option for it. So got with Jason And we said, what's the best way to do that? And he said to modify the PUD to include hotel motel. And so that's what we're asking for tonight. So even though that is the current developer is not in place, we still feel like it's a good use. And we're asking for that zoning change so that that can happen with maybe some expansion with what's going on next door. Here to answer any questions, ask for your approval.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone here who wants to make any comments on this? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Jim, do I have a second? Second. Second by Paul. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to action item number 6B, discussion consideration and recommendation regarding request Z 2201. Jason?
Yes, so the requested PUD covers what was originally the original Walmart site in Fredericksburg. And so that PUD was actually filed as a plat. It's very interesting. All of the development standards and signage is part of the plat itself, along with easements. Not an ideal way to file a PUD, but it is where we're at. So when we tried to unpack this a little bit, we thought, let's just do an amendment. And because we are talking just this undeveloped portion between the two for a possible hotel site. So when we looked at it, we didn't have any concerns. This PUD, when we talk about the intensity of a land use of Sutherland's, a hotel, they're very similar. The land use here is a C2 land use, and so a hotel at C2 land use would not be problematic. So the only conditions that we really have from staffs is that if they get the PUD approved, is that the property be replatted or amended to show the updated information of the land use chart. But that we would also say that this site, the hotel motel land use site, would be developed in accordance with all current and applicable city codes, including signs, parking, access, easements, and everything like that. Because there's some unique signage in that PUD that wouldn't meet today's standards, some old development regs that just aren't applicable today. So we would just want the development to adhere to the new standards. So we would ask that those conditions be placed on development.
So you would basically strike all the pieces of PUD that apply and substitute current code.
We would let them stand for the original, like Sutherland's track, because they're not changing it. And this is a little different because there's multiple owners, and Sutherland's has signed off on the amendment to this. But I don't know how far they would be willing to change other things. I think their letter just said they would support the amendment to allow the use. So we would just say for the hotel that the new regs kick in versus there's some weird stuff in there. I don't think there's a lot, but I didn't want something to fall through the crack.
Yeah, there's two other owners. So you'd have both Sutherland's and the other owner sign a letter that said that they would agree to allowing the hotel motel use and change the PUD. There was some other things that they wanted to do. But yeah, if we got into changing the PUD on their site, they might get a little antsy.
Yeah.
So,
Would we not just be better off waiting until an actual developer shows up for property?
At this point, I think if we're comfortable with a use of hotel next to this, I don't think we would need to, unless y'all wanted to go through kind of a long drawn out development and engineering and have them go through the expense, and then there's never a certainty that it will get done. So I think from a land use perspective, given the location and adjacent uses with C2 behind it immediately, in essence C2 on the property, I would recommend that we just kind of consider the potential land use as far as itself, and then the developer would meet the regs just like any other issue.
and most of the other commercial items are already covered. They just didn't, in 1981, didn't put hotel or we wouldn't be here. You
Okay,
know what I mean?
this isn't limiting it to hotel, it's adding it.
Yes, it's adding that to it. So many other,
Oh, okay.
so you have men and women's leisure apparel and all these other different
Okay.
things. So you can do a retail store, you can do all these different things. So we're just adding to the PUD to say, hey, we want to add this to it.
Gotcha.
In the
I
lighter.
missed that ad part.
Yeah, that's all we're doing.
Clarify.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions from anybody?
I move we approve it as presented with the staff recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Tim, a second by Jim. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, thank you, sir. Go to the next item, which is public hearing 5C, request Z 22021, which is a request by Kevin Spraggins, applicant to consider a future land use change from mixed-use corridor to a future land use classification of commercial for approximately 14.28 acres of land out of the abstract A0002, W.H. Anderson, number 197, tract 3, 22.28 acres located at 1100 Friendship Lane. Do I need to do these separately? Okay. All right, I entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion, we go into public hearing for Z 2202.
Second.
Motion by Jim, a second by Polly. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Mr. Spraggins.
All right, so this is a continuation of what we did last month, to where we rezoned the 8 acres, and we said we're coming back in with the remainder of the 22. So this is 14 acres that we're adding to it. So the fellers, they own this, and they own the other tract next to it. And so, like we had talked about last month, as far as making all this work together and making sure we don't have a turkey plant next to a commercial facility or some type of strange M3 use that could come in. We've worked with Jason and staff in putting this and making this all together. Fellers felt like it was a good idea. Thought it was already zoned commercial, to begin with. So this is a continuation of what we started last month. I'd like to finish this up and get this whole corridor turned into the C2. And so that's what we're requesting, and that's for y'all's approval.
All right, thank you. Anyone here that wants to make any comments on this application? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, we close Z 2202 public hearing.
I have a motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Daryl. Any other discussion? Favor aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to action item number 6C, discussion, consideration, and recommendation regarding request Z 22021. All right, David.
What Kevin said. We've seen this. This is part 2, the continuation, trying to bring some symmetry to that abstract. So staff does recommend approval of the requested future land use change.
I move we approve it as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Motion by Tim, a second by Jim. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries on that. Go to public hearing 5D, request Z 22022, request by Kevin Spraggins, applicant to consider a request for a zoning change from industrial park M3 to a zoning classification of commercial C2 for approximately 14.28 acres of land out of the abstract A0002, W.H. Anderson, number 197, tract 3, 22.28 acres located at 1100 Friendship Lane. I'll entertain the motion to open the public hearing.
Make a motion, we open Z 2202.
Motion by Jim.
Second.
Second by Polly. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, Mr. Spraggins.
All right, so this is a continuation again of just the standard development process for the multifamily project that we've been working on Friendship Lane. If y'all remember, we've been through a zoning change on lot 1 to get everything to coincide with each other, and then y'all then approved a site plan approval for this tract, for both of these tracts, and now we're at the preliminary plat, preliminary engineering stage.
Kevin, we're still on the zoning.
I'm sorry,
We're on the zoning.
I thought you said
You're
Friendship
running
Lane.
Well, this one's on Friendship. We did the land use on the first one, so we're on the public hearing for the zoning of Fellers.
Oh, okay. Sorry, guys.
No.
wait a minute, yeah, don't confuse us.
Should have stopped me sooner, man. That's on record. Jeez, Louise. You enjoyed that, didn't you? Yeah, I've never been told I talk too fast, but I guess I did. Take a breath, huh? All right.
And I was ready to move to approve.
My family's texting me. They're ready for me to come to dinner, so I guess that's why I got ahead of myself.
All right, talk about, this is consider the zoning change.
For
Do you have
the,
anything else to say about the
No.
zoning change?
is that Z 2202, is that?
Yes, we're on 2202, public hearing on the zoning
Now I
change.
need to sit down.
All right, is there anyone else here that wants to make comments on this application? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Jim, second by Polly. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right, let's go to action item number 6D. Discussion, consideration, and recommendation regarding request Z 22022.
This is part 2A-B of the zoning change for this parcel, bringing M3 into C2, bringing all the track into the same zoning. So staff recommends approval as presented.
All right, anybody have any questions or comments?
Motion to approve.
By Jim, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Polly.
Yeah.
Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
You can pick up where you left off.
All
I was
right.
about to say I should have sat down. So you had me up here and I was just rolling.
All right, we're
Okay.
going to go to action item number 6E, request plat 2201 by Kevin Spraggins with BEI to consider a preliminary plat for a multifamily project located at 162 Homage Lane.
All right, preliminary plat for Friendship Lane. So as I was saying before, this is a continuation of the development phase as far as what we're doing for the multifamily project on Friendship Lane. So we went through a zoning change, and then we went through site plan approval, which y'all saw last month, and we're in the preliminary plat phase of this because this tract hasn't been platted before, and we're only the developer's only purchasing a portion of it. So if you look at the plat, you look at the engineering, all the site plan is all the site planning and the layout is the same. And so we're just asking for the preliminary plat approval of this, subject to staff's comments, which we have addressed those comments and got that to Shelby. And so we've already made those changes and are happy to have that as part of the recommendation. So here it is for your approval.
Thank you, sir. Jason?
I'll just go ahead and ditto what Kevin said on this one. We are in the third kind of step of this process. We've all seen this a couple of times. Staff did have some conditions. I know Kevin got that to us. We did not have a chance to review those to verify, so I would just say that we keep the conditions on there so that we can go through and do our final review. Fairly minor deals, just we didn't want the entire lot to be in there. We didn't want a remnant of that portion that they were buying, so. And then we had some site visibility triangles, that standard easements, storm drain. And then obviously this is kind of all subject to civil construction. So we don't foresee any changes, but no issues with the preliminary plat itself. So we just ask that the conditions stay on there until we get to do our review.
Okay. Do I have any questions or comments?
Only one curb cut?
Yes, and well, I need to look at the site plan. I think there was an additional curb cut to the west for the second phase. The plat here is showing that's actually a right of way. So there'll be a street dedication between those two. And then as the remnant tracks develop, we anticipate some type of street continuing out to Homig Lane. But
you don't know where yet. So that
Well, we've got
curb cut has not been approved. Here's one.
we've got 2 driveways and a right of way.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
And they wanted to make sure they kept a street
There you
to lot 3 as a part of that deal. So they wanted to keep,
go. Thank you, Paul.
they wanted to keep some commercial along Homig, and they wanted to keep the remainder, which we talked about last time was the R1A preliminary plat they came in with like 5 years ago. So I don't think they're gonna do that now with some family changes, but
And yes, just to piggyback on your question, there had to be multiple curb cuts because of the density. Fire requires 2 points of egress.
Anyone else? Are you ready to
Move
make
we
a motion?
approve it as presented with conditions, staff.
Right.
Second that.
Have a motion by Tim, second by Jamie. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries.
thank you all.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it.
Now go home to dinner. All right, we have action item number 6F, request as the site plan 2201. Now, I'm sorry if I say this wrong. Is it Evalu Rose? How do you say name? Evalu, excuse me. Evalu Rose by IR Squared to consider a short-term rental complex located at 306 West Traps.
I'm Evilly Rose with Irish Squared Engineering out of Kerrville, Texas. Thank you for having me here this evening. And so what you have in your packet there is the approval of the development site plan for short-term rental at 306 West Trapp Street. As part of this development, we're providing two-story residential houses for short-term rental, and then 2 additional one-story residents there. And we'll be providing utility connections and site improvements, and we'll be submitting construction plans to the engineering department as part of this development.
Okay, thank you. Jason, you have any comments on?
Just to add on, so we did review this. This has gone to the Historic Review Board. They went through a couple of different iterations to get the density where they felt comfortable. The property is sufficiently parked given the code regulations. We did list some conditions on there on approval of the site plan, the biggest one being civil review. So the site is large enough to require adherence to our floodplain detention program. You'll notice here on the site plan, there are 2 areas called out as detention ponds. I don't think we're talking Walmart. Obviously, that's not something we want in a residential area. It could be some type of water garden or berms or some type of low impact development standards for water quality. So that's why we needed the civil review so that they can go through and see what exactly is going to be done. At that point, if something comes out of civil review or something can't be worked out and the site needs to be reanalyzed, if it's a major change, then we will bring that back. If it's a minor tweak and the layout doesn't change too much, we would say that we would kind of move forward with approval. We recommend approval of the development site plan with the conditions that we listed.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for him?
How many trees are you gonna have left? Pardon me?
As many as
I drove by there today, depending on where you site those buildings, you're gonna wind up cutting about half of them down, aren't you?
No, not.
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to say at this point because we modified the site plan from what we wanted. But,
so as
like there's 3 or 4 like 100-year-old countries on one side of the property, that's Broadway, and then that's what holds it.
And as part of the construction plans, we'll be submitting a landscape plan. And as Jason mentioned, we're looking at some low impact development design to include as part of this. And so we'll be working with Anna Hudson and showing that once we finalize our design to get their approval.
Jason, is that whole section R2 or is it spotting?
I believe it's R2.
That's all.
And is there facility next door? Yeah, but there's a vacant lot in between because the house just got torn down.
This is the slot.
That's it.
This is the big.
Oh, this is the map of 306 right there. That's the one that, okay, gotcha. Because it shows, your overlay here shows the structure still on there, so that's just an.
Old aerial photo, and
So
the
what's-
lot lines are a little bit off from the appraisal district on this one.
So, what's next year? Is that a single family or is that a short term?
The west.
The west, the left there.
Yellow Victorian, like.
No, the other side.
The other way.
On the other side, there's a stable family home, and then the other side of that is another short-term rental. And across the street from our other one, there's all animals on that block.
So in the past, we've always asked that there be screening between R1 to a multi-development like this. Can we do that?
This is not a conditional use permit.
It's not a conditional use permit. But we've asked that anyway.
I know we talked about it on another project, but we ended up not doing it because they were not asking for a CUP. We had some concerns on one of the parkings. I can't remember what project that Mark Collins was doing his R2 development, and we had concerns about parking. But because of the way the site plan code is written, we don't have that authority to put that requirement on them.
We made Randy Staley's project.
That was a conditional use permit. So CUPs, we can put those conditions on there.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I'm sorry.
Also a little different, they had all of their hot tubs jammed up on that one side. So in addition to the screening, they rotated those out for a different buffer. So because of the CUP, that's where we get the authority for additional conditions.
Can you talk about the parking difference? What's required is 4, but y'all are putting in 11.
Yes, ma'am. So we are, based on those new updated regulations, we're trying to conform to that as part of this development to provide more parking.
And so, yes, so the parking, I would say, they conforms to draft 1 or 2. Draft 4 is a little bit different, but it's a lot better than what we've been seeing. So, since they did, offer to increase the parking and provide as much as possible, staff feels comfortable. Again, they meet the regulations, and we applaud them for trying to meet the codes that we were considering at the time. So, thank you for that.
And if this ended being a short-term rental complex at some point in time, what would be its potential future use?
It would have to be some type of multifamily.
It would still conform to R2 as multiple units for families?
It would conform as far as the density goes. Depending on the metering, there might have to be some utility, how that works out. We'll look at that on civils. The parking would not meet the multifamily regs in themselves, but that was one of the reasons we had drafted originally to kind of match the multifamily. The problem with these types of facilities is they function different than multifamily, so that's why we tweaked that. So moving forward, if it was not a short-term rental facility and someone wanted to long-term rent that, we would look at, analyze and see what the breakdown units were at that point, and we could possibly go through a variance process or something like that. I'd have to see. Just kind of depends on what would happen in the future. That's a kind of difficult question to answer, but I think they would have options. But yes, because they wouldn't be able to plat this as separate like that, they would have to do some type of duplex or plex, something like that.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else? Questions? Comments?
Chair, I move we approve SB 2201 with the staff recommendations that dumpster be screened and civil construction plans be reviewed and approved.
Motion by Jim. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Darrell. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Uh-huh. All right, we need to approve the minutes.
Make a motion, we approve those darn things.
Excuse me.
Oh, wait a minute.
My apologies. I have to comment on that. During the ice storm, I realized the wrong version got submitted in your packet. It was not the completed, it was the rough draft. So I have that available. I'll be emailing it out. My apologies.
So we're not approving these. All right.
Can we just approve the one she's gonna send?
No.
We'll get it on the next go around.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about tomorrow?
Didn't have anything on the agenda. I think we'll just see everybody tomorrow bright and early.
10 o'clock.
That's not.
University Center.
University
For some
Center.
it is,
For some of us, I'll be quitting time.
So we're at the University Center.
Yes,
Should be-
this one's gonna be probably a well-attended meeting, given both visitors.
And will lunch be provided at this time? Okay.
And we'll have to go through public hearings.
A public comment.
Public comment, sorry.
Yes.
And,
that'll be limited to 3 minutes each vote.
That is generally our operating procedure standard. That could be adjusted by the chair.
And it's my understanding that Clinton Bailey is going to be the moderator.
Yes, sir.
what chair?
Clinton. Or the mayor or whoever wants to decide if they want to make a motion to lower that time. But 3 minutes is what we've generally been giving folks.
Is that state statute?
You want to get that one?
There's no time specified in the law. You just have to give a reasonable amount of time. So that depends on the, I guess, on the complexity of the issue that they want to comment on. So there is an ability for a governing body to reduce, like maybe if you had 100 people that want to comment, maybe reduce everybody to 1 minute. You can go as low as you can, but it has to be a reasonable amount of time to make a comment, to make it meaningful. I mean, you couldn't give people 10 seconds or something like that. So that most people tend to do 3 or 5 minutes. So it's kind of their standard.
But the challenge is, see the city council. But by the time they're down to, making a decision, their blood sugar is completely gone. It's 10:30 at night. Listen, I mean,
I think that's why this meeting's starting earlier in the day instead of trying to do it in the evening, is because of that issue of.
And that's why they're feeding them lunch so their blood sugar doesn't go to the gym.
You get the cookies.
Or the Monster Energies.
Well, and it's
I don't know if it's going to.
a complex topic.
It is. I didn't. I didn't go primarily because I heard I haven't heard anything new recently. Just keep hearing the same. So I just need to study it. So I'll make sure I'm on position.
All right. All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Just.
Oh, I had something. All right. All right, have a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Second by Tim. Any other discussion? All in favor, aye? All opposed? All right, motion carries.
Should beat my time.
They're not always easy to see.